The new Silent Night, Deadly Night, directed by Mike P. Nelson, just released into theaters on December 12th, 2025. Rohan Campbell plays Billy, an orphan haunted by the voice of the Santa-suited killer who murdered his parents. A voice that still whispers in his head, pushing him to don the red suit himself and punish the naughty. Ruby Modine co-stars as Pam, a small-town shop clerk with a short fuse and a soft spot for Billy. Shot on location in British Columbia with a modest budget and a lean 96-minute runtime, this slasher leans into practical effects, bleak humor, and a surprisingly tender streak. It's the second full reboot of the 1984 original, but this time with slicker kills, weirder vibes, and just enough sincerity to catch you off guard. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous, and we are compelled by Schlock, a schlocky podcast where we talk about the good, the bad, and the schlock with all of your favorite weirdo movies. We talk about what we like, what we didn't like, and what sort of things caught our eye. Any big ideas, any themes, all that good stuff. Chris, I don't know how to pronounce this person's name. We spent literally like 15 minutes prior to the start of this show discussing how to pronounce Rohan
Yep.
Campbell.
Rohan?
The writers of Rohan.
Right. We're going with Rohan right now, but I also don't know. Most of the interviews I looked up, they didn't introduce him. They were just clips. So
because they don't know it either. They're too
I mean,
embarrassed to say his name.
Maybe he should come on the show and you know, set the record straight on how to pronounce your name. Like, we have an important question to ask you, sir. How do you pronounce your name? Yeah,
that would be a good get. If you know, please correct us in the comments and make us feel as dumb as possible. Chris, this movie just came out into theaters. The last I saw for what it is making, it was at $1.1 million. I don't know if that's good or bad or not because they haven't released the budget or anything. I got a feeling that it's not good, and I'll give you two reasons why. One, the few reviews that I've watched, I try not to watch a ton of reviews on it because I don't want it to influence what I'm thinking. But the few reviews that I've seen, people were not liking this movie. And so if it doesn't get good reviews in its opening weekend,
the few reviews I've seen, it got really good reviews. So that's interesting. Yeah.
I'm just watching the haters.
Yeah, I usually stay away from a lot of reviews, but I read two that were both like, you know, 7s and 8s.
Well, let me give you my second thinking of why 1.1 million maybe isn't so good.
It's 2025.
When we actually got together to watch this movie in person with each other this weekend. That normally doesn't happen. In a theater that was absolutely empty.
Right, we were the only two people there, and that
we were there.
To be fair, it was a matinee.
It was a matinee.
And sometimes matinees, especially with horror flicks, don't always perform. But yeah, it was a little disconcerting that there was no one else there to laugh and to scream with us.
Yeah, Chris screamed a lot during this movie.
That was actually me laughing. It's
yeah, no, it doesn't bode well for a movie to not have people in theaters. But man, I gotta say, this is probably one of my best theater going experiences in a long time without anybody there.
It was a blast. I had a really good time with you.
Wasn't it great?
Yeah.
So anyway, like I said, we're going to talk about the good and the bad and the schlock. What I need you to do if you're watching on YouTube, I need you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, I need you to like the video, leave a comment, tell us this dude's name, tell us what you thought of Silent Night, Deadly Night. Or if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go back and watch our Silent Night, Deadly Night playlist where we review all of the 6 prior movies to this, and they're all different and all wacky.
Yes, they all have their pluses and minuses for sure.
If you're listening to the podcast version, make sure you follow us and give us a good rating. If you're going to give us a bad rating, don't even bother. Before we get into the good, the bad, and the schlock, what we like to do is we like to talk about sort of the cast and crew of these movies in a little segment called Web of Schlock. Chris?
Yeah, we'll just keep it short and sweet like this movie was. We have Rohan Campbell, if that's how you say his name,
If
who
that's
played
your
Billy,
name.
right? And he's kind of making a name for himself in horror lately. Halloween Ends, The Monkey, and he also is one of the Hardy Boys in the new Hardy Boys TV show.
Interesting. I did not know they were creating such a thing.
I like the IMDb had it as 2021 when it came out, and so it could already be over. I don't know. I need to look at it.
Probably.
Then we have Ruby Modine, who played Pamela or Pammy, and I was correct. She was in Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. I thought I recognized her when we were watching the movie together, and then she also had a recurring character on the TV show Shameless. So again, another up and coming horror icon. And it was kind of cool seeing two separate modern horror icons coming together. It feels like they could keep doing this for years, and I would enjoy seeing that. Then we have the one other actor I'll name, Mark Aikson. He played Charlie. He was also the spoiler alert janitor in the beginning.
Okay.
And I remember him from Elf. He was the ex-con who worked in the mailroom, who got Buddy the Elf inebriated, and then they danced on the mailroom table. He was also in Hot Rod. He has a ton of credits. Couple episodes of X-Files, couple episodes of Supernatural. Just if you're interested, you're like, where have I seen him? Chances are you've seen him somewhere, because he had a lot of credit. So that was kind of cool. But I always loved him in Elf, so it was nice seeing him at the beginning, and then hearing him through the rest of the film. And then we have
he's definitely a recognizable face. For sure.
The director is Mike P. Nelson. He did a segment in VHS 85, and he also did the remake of Wrong Turn in 2021, which I hear is also surprisingly good and fun remake or reboot.
Really?
Yeah. So there we go.
He is also one of his more recent things is, I believe he has directed the latest official Friday the 13th short film. I believe it's called Sweet Revenge. I have not seen it. I've not seen it on principle yet, because it's like the first official Friday the 13th film to come out. Yeah, short film to come out in quite a while. And I believe it's like a hard cider commercial. It's all for hard cider. I've heard differing things about it, that it's great, that it's bad.
Kind of makes me want to see it, but that's weird.
It's just, I'll eventually see it. I think I don't think I can stay away from it forever.
Someday we'll have to do like a non-canon and canon short film Friday the 13th. But yeah.
But there we go. That's one of the reasons his name is in like the horror headlines currently. Prior to this movie.
I saw the title Sweet Revenge as a short film, but I had no idea it was, part of the Friday the 13th. That's pretty cool.
Funny title for a hard cider film, Sweet Revenge.
It is. Yeah.
I think maybe another important thing to bring up, not important, interesting thing to bring up. I believe this movie was produced by Bloody Disgusting, which is a very popular horror publication. I think they're a physical magazine. If not, they have a very big online presence where they basically cover everything horror. So I don't know if this is their first foray into filmmaking. I don't think so. But they are definitely pushing this movie very hard. They're very proud of it.
Well, they should be. But
let's
see what else they've done.
Let's get into the schlock. Before we get into the schlock, let's see. I gotta Got to get my banners up here. We've been going without any banners. How are we going to know what's going on here? The Schlock. There it is. Before we get properly into the Schlock, like you said earlier, Chris, I forgot this in the intro. Spoilers. This movie just came out. We are going to spoil it very heavily. So if you haven't seen it, don't get mad at us, please. So we got a comment here from Anthony Marson. Thanks for joining us, Anthony. Appreciate it. The higher short films were just BMW commercials, but they were some of the most exciting filmmaking of the early 2000s.
They were. I remember the John Woo one.
Have you seen those? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, there was like
worth checking
5
out?
or 6 really. Oh yeah, they're cool. I think most of them starred Clive Owen, if I remember correctly, and it was like 5 or 6 really cool directors making short films.
Okay.
But man, I hadn't thought of those for years. Way to bring that up, man, Anthony. That's awesome.
Deep cut.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm sure they have
me.
them all. I think they have them probably all on YouTube. It'd be easy to stream, but yeah. I think there's a Ridley Scott one if I remember correctly.
Jeez.
Man, I haven't thought of those forever.
Anthony, you've convinced me. I will check those out, but I will definitely check out Sweet Revenge now. Thank you. So yeah, spoilers. Let's get into the Schlock. Chris, something I want to bring up right away, because you called this movie from nearly the beginning. Maybe not the very beginning, but I don't know, 15 minutes into the movie. Frailty. This movie it's not really a Silent Night, Deadly Night remake. It's more of a Frailty remake. For those of you who don't remember, Frailty is a Matthew McConaughey. I can't say anybody's name today. Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton movie that came out in like 2001, around there.
Yeah, I want to say like late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, give or take a couple years. Yeah.
Where I think Bill Paxton plays the father of a young Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey plays himself as an older version later in the movie. But he believes that Bill Paxton believes that he gets commissioned by God to find and kill bad people with an axe. Right? Yep. I mean, that's the gist of it? Like he is able to I believe touch the bad people and see what the bad things that they've done, like, and these are like murdering bad things, right?
I believe that in the movie they call them demons, but it could just be bad people.
Yeah, I think they were demons or demon possessed or something like that. Whereas in this movie, Billy, he's not necessarily going on a mission from God, although we might get into that a little bit later. But he is definitely on some sort of mission from Charlie, the janitor, who previously was doing this job. He's on a mission from him. Charlie is showing Billy. He like lives inside Billy's head, and he's showing him who the bad people are. Bad people in the sense that they are murdering or torturing or kidnapping other people, and he hones in on them, and then Billy seeks them out and offs them. Dressed
usually
as Santa
with an
Claus.
axe, but not always. The other thing that I think, so there's the Silent Night, Deadly Night dressing that is definitely there, but it's Frailty with a heavy dose of venom.
That's right.
Just the interaction between the voice of Charlie in his head and him is very, very venom. Especially there's some really comic, funny moments that really struck that. So it's like Frailty meets Venom wrapped up in a Silent Night, Deadly Night bow. And man, I wouldn't have said that that's what I want to see, but darned if it isn't.
That is the craziest thing. This movie, I don't think you can rightly call it a remake, because it's really not.
Well, you said something that was really interesting. And then in the second half of the movie, it kind of did this. You were talking at how this was more of a remake of like a Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, even though it's the brother in that version. This is the adult version of Billy, and he's already had a whole previous movie that we see in flashback
Hmm.
from
Well,
17 to 27.
in listening to our previous episodes, I had said that I really wish in the original Silent Night, Deadly Night that Billy would have kept the Santa beard over his face the entire time, and that they wouldn't have caught him, and then that way he could continue on in
Mhm,
more movies.
mhm.
This movie feels like the continuation I would have liked to have seen from that movie,
Correct.
right? He
This
like finally kind
Yeah,
of gets some control over his trauma.
yeah. The other thing that this reminded me of, a similar structure would be when we reviewed Hard Eyes, where it's like a lived-in world, like, there's a whole movie that already happened.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right, and in this one, we get it in flashback, and the fun thing here is the homages to, the first 2 movies that we get in that flashback, both with, callbacks to great lines, music, similar kills. It's one of the funnest, sequences in the movie, but it's interesting to think that it's like a sequel to the first movie and a reboot of the first movie, and that
Yeah,
really
a
works.
requel,
A requel.
a requel. Like it's like this a hard reboot, but yeah, it's like I said, it's taken place like there's something that's already happened before
Well,
this,
and
and
the
they do some gratuitous flashbacks, not gratuitous, not as in many flashbacks, not as in necessarily bloody, although they are, uh, which is a staple of the original movies, right? Where the
mhm.
second one, where they basically just play the first one over again. They kind of do that in this movie, but you haven't seen that movie, right? You
Right,
haven't
which is
seen him growing
awesome.
up in an orphanage. Yeah,
Right, but you
they
have
did it
that
very
callback.
well.
Yeah, it's such a fun gimmick for it works in this movie as a movie in itself and as a callback to the first 2 movies. It's so fun. The other thing that's interesting, we talked about this with, Halloween 2 that we reviewed in October,
Mhm.
but so let's take the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, and just slashers in general. He, at least in his mind, is killing people who have done something bad or who have sinned or done something wrong, and that is a staple of slashers. And then in
Mhm.
Halloween 2, I think is that the movie where we talked about how many similarities there are to like superhero origin stories and slashers?
I don't remember specifically Halloween 2.
Yeah, I just remember we were reviewing a slasher earlier this year, and we were talking about how all the similarities between superhero origin stories and slasher films and the bad guys in the slasher films, and how like if you were to
Oh,
see
they're
it
all
through
driven
their
by
eyes,
revenge.
they're driven by revenge, and it's a matter of the degree of punishment they're seeking out
Mm,
and or the justification behind it. But you could really turn a slasher person into a superhero with a good PR agent, with a good angle, and you
right.
could turn a superhero into a horror icon again if you twist the lens just a little bit. And that's what they
Yeah.
did here. This is basically kind of like a superhero origin story.
Right. Well, so we look at Batman, right? Gets his parents killed, becomes an orphan, and then later in his life decides to take the law into his own hands. He has
And
a
punish
code
bad
of not
people.
killing, um, which is maybe what separates him from a slasher. Maybe the only thing that separates him from a slasher and a superhero. Yeah, I remember this conversation. I just don't remember which slasher movie it was
Yeah, I
on.
can't remember which slasher movie we were talking about, but I thought it was Halloween 2. But whoever's listening, go back and watch all of our slasher reviews, and you can find it for us.
Yeah, but
Um,
no, you're absolutely correct. They 100% successfully did this. Where you're right, they tweaked that
yeah, because
lens
I
just enough to go,
yeah,
oh
because I
no,
was
this he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
because I think I was asking you, is that possible? Could they do that? Could they turn a slasher into a superhero? And in response to my question, Mr. Mike P. Nelson, he heard me
He must
in the
be a fan.
ether. Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, you know what? Yes, I can."
Yeah, I was totally surprised by this movie, and they did a very good job of stringing you along,
Hmm.
in that this movie did did the twist the way movies are supposed to. Like, I think you can go back and watch this movie from the beginning again and absolutely see, like,
Yeah,
oh, this is how it is. But the
right.
way they
Totally.
disseminate the information, and maybe the expectations that you have coming into the movie, uh,
Right.
thinking, oh, Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, okay, he's just going to have a psychotic break and kill people. It strings you along with that assumption and slowly
100%.
disseminates information to you until
But
you
yeah, you
get,
get this sneaky feeling that like something more is going on, and then about
yeah,
halfway through, you're like, "Oh, that's what's going on."
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and it would
because
be really interesting to know, what someone's perception of the movie is who hasn't seen any of the prior films, who doesn't know what this franchise is, or at
right.
least the first movie.
Yeah.
Were they strung along in the same way, or did they just automatically assume that he's some sort of anti-hero, that he's some
Yeah,
sort of Venom-esque
because
hero?
in the first movie, he snaps and he kills people who might have done something wrong, but they really don't deserve death,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? At least in the narrative sense of it. And here, the people what these people are doing, I mean, if you're going to take the law into your own hands, you really start to side with this with the psycho killer. And it's really interesting because you see that a lot in slashers where you're like, ah, I didn't like you hurting this person, but this person felt justified, at least in the story proper. So it's really interesting how they took that and turned it just to one more degree, and it really worked.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, to move on to some other things, you pointed this out in the movie very early on, Tarantino vibes.
Yes. Yep. There were a lot of Tarantino vibes. And a lot of them I liked. Some of them might actually go in the bad section. Um,
Okay. I didn't know, because during the movie we were kind of talking about it. We were like, I don't know if this is working for me or not, because they have the big splash screen where he, like, I don't know, it's like a video game where he gets an update in his mission log or
mhm.
something, that he's got to go kill this person or that person, right?
Yeah,
And yeah,
I didn't dislike it
it's
outright, but there was a tonal shift, however slight, that did throw me off.
well, I'm wondering if, because they did another splash screen, or at least a text card where it did the countdown, the Advent countdown.
Mhm.
December 23rd, December 24th, and that was so different from
Yes.
the kill screens. That maybe that created, like, a huge,
Discrepancy?
disparity between vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, my bad section is gonna be fairly small, but there are some things that are like that, like, trying a couple too many things, and maybe it didn't work, maybe there's a little whiplash, tonally here and
Okay.
there. But yeah,
Well, let's move on from that then, and I'll let you go off on it in bad.
sure,
But
think of other schlock. Go ahead, what else you got for schlock?
so something I thought was a really interesting part of the story that was very underplayed, the Advent calendar, this mysterious
Yes.
Advent calendar that he had, uh, that he had to get the blood from his victims and put it on each day of the calendar,
Just
and apparently
it's like a wooden
Advent.
book.
Yeah, Advent is the only time that he has to do this, because
Yeah,
the
from December
backstory that
1st.
we get is, if he doesn't go punish the naughty, during the time of Advent, someone good, will get hurt or killed. So
Yeah, some
he
sort of
has to punish the naughty.
cosmic balance.
Right, right. Yeah, it's this really, so it's some sort of cosmic book. I was thinking, is this the Santonomicon? Like it
It
has
felt
this
like a
very,
Santonomicon.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
this
occult book of some kind.
yeah, this weird old Nordic kind of like Yuletide vibe. It was very, very ancient and esoteric. And you're like, so this has been going on for thousands of years. There has been a um, slasher, a Santa Slayer.
Right.
Um,
So we were talking about frailty, right? You know, he gets the mission from God and frailty. Um,
right.
Whereas in this, where did this mission come from? Is this part of the Santa lore? You brought, well, while we were watching, you brought up Krampus. Like, is this like Krampus's naughty book or something that he
Right.
has to
Yeah.
take care of?
Interesting. So if we're just going with the mythology that we were told in this movie, if the ending gives us a big window into this. So the voice in his head is the slasher who was killed at the beginning of the film, but who was
Mhm.
the voice in Charlie's head?
Right. The presumption is that somebody was doing it before him, and then that person died, and they did the handshake and passed it on to Charlie, and that it keeps
Right.
going forward forever and keeps going backward
So
forever.
so it's interesting because they are given the power to see these things,
Mhm.
whichever spirit is occupying this person, but they're also the person of the previous dead. It's not like at first I didn't realize that Charlie was the janitor. I knew he was the janitor, but I
Mhm.
thought he was like some ancient spirit that had possessed the janitor and then moved on
Ah.
to Billy. And what it is it's an ancient power, but it's fused with the personality and the soul of Charlie. So
Mhm.
whoever he did a handshake with, that's the voice he heard ad ad nauseum backwards until you have the very first one when this happened.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if we're going to get some of that mythology in a sequel, which I'm really interested. I Again, it was one of those tonal things that was so interesting, but it seemed kind of glossed over that I'm like, was it enough? Did I want less? Did I want more?
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
kind of undecided on that.
Yeah. I always want more of that stuff because I'm like, oh, where'd this come from? I need to know. I know people, hate it when things are explained too much, but if it's done right, I love it
Oh,
when good
yeah.
lore is built. Just looking at the book, it's a Christmas tree on the book. If you look at it closely, the ornaments on the Christmas tree, I think, are like hanging corpses. So just very gnarly stuff. Like I said, it reminded me of the Necronomicon, from the
Yeah.
Evil Dead, just like some sort of ancient tome that has, some weird unearthly power, and it's like, oh, what's more about this? Tell me more about this thing.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's really weird that it only takes place for the time of for the 25 days in December. Like there's someone has some cool mythology there, and I guess I probably would have liked a little more.
Mhm.
Oh, but again, it's one of those things that like either give me more or give me less because the amount they gave me was a bit of a tease.
Or does that mean it's just right?
Exactly,
If
because
you
then
if you could do more
I
or do
want to
less, it's
learn
just
more in
right.
part two. Yeah, yeah. So I go
Yeah.
back and forth on that. Um, the callbacks in this were so schlocky and so great, but the music we had talked before we went into the theater, we're like, we hope they reuse some of the music from the original.
You have to reuse the music.
Okay, and so they did, right? Because I'm gaslighting
Mhm.
myself right now because I looked in the credits on IMDb to the soundtrack and it doesn't show any of the music from the original. But I'm like, there
Really?
were at least two, yeah. But like there were at least two songs from the original
Mhm.
movie that they played like some kind of version of in this, right? I'm not like
No,
gaslighting myself.
it's when so that main theme of the original movies, Santa's watching, Santa's creeping. Uh, they play throughout this movie. They play motifs from it, and then finally towards the end, when he is revealing to Pam, who he is, what his backstory is, um, and he's like chasing around all of these naughty people. to exact punishment on them. Uh, the full blown Christmas Carol is going. Santa's watching.
Yeah, like
Santa's waiting,
during the
and it's a very
flashback,
funny
right?
part,
Yeah.
a more
Okay.
morbidly funny part.
I mean, I'm like, I was just like this whirlwind of like that happened, right? And, like you were with me,
Mhm.
but there was no one else there, so I'm like, maybe it didn't
Yeah, you're
happen.
not crazy, buddy. I saw it too.
IMDb is messing with me, man.
Well, since it's a new movie, it might not be exactly updated on all of the factual tidbits about it yet.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that might come later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's really all I have for Schlock. What else you got?
well, so one of the other parts where we heard a song from the original is probably the most discussed portion of this movie. We both had thoughts about it after we watched. This is probably the most controversial part of the movie.
The
Um,
centerpiece?
the centerpiece, the Nazi Christmas party. So when he's going ham at the Nazi Christmas party, I believe that's where one of the other songs is playing.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought it was like Santa's sleigh or something like that, but I can't remember.
and what one of my big problems with the movie is the ending, and we were talking about this.
Hmm.
My problem with the ending is that I feel like it was a little lackluster for what they were building up, and while we were watching the movie, while the Nazi party massacre happened, like you were giggling the whole way through, um, just because
I giggle.
it's so wild and absurd. You're a giggler, a certified giggler. But you leaned to me and you said, like, this is cool, but where do you go from here? Right? This is maybe like the midpoint of the movie. Where do you
Right.
go from here? How can you get bigger than a Nazi party massacre? And then indeed we get to the end, and the end showdown between Billy and the Snatcher, this person who's been kidnapping children for what I assume is trafficking. Well,
Hmm.
we don't necessarily get it spelled out for us.
Yeah, there's a
It's a
flashback where they're
pretty
getting money.
anticlimactic fight. Yeah.
Yeah, it had potential to be a kind of a cool fight, but it is anticlimactic. Yeah. And I mean, that's gonna kind of dovetail into my bad. I think also into your bad. Should we just switch to bad? Or do you have
Uh,
something else in Schlock?
yeah. If let's start off with this in bad, because I do want to talk about the Nazi party a little bit more, but we can dovetail into bad, with the caveat that uh, I knew that this was going to happen. Let me switch to bad here. There, we got our bad banner up. I knew that this scene was going to happen because I had seen portions of it online. Bloody Disgusting has just that scene by itself, like on repeat
Hmm.
on YouTube. Very proud of that scene, and uh, I tried not to like totally watch it. I was just scrubbing through it, trying to find like a good image for like a YouTube thumbnail or something. And so I only just saw bits and pieces of it. And I thought that I wouldn't like it for various reasons. But going into the movie and seeing it in context, I was like, oh, this is a fun, schlocky, crazy action piece.
It is, yeah.
So,
It's
so part of my bad, but I did like it. So,
it's again, it's one of those things that like when you play it by itself, it's a lot of fun. When you look at the structure of the movie, it doesn't quite work as well because the climax is so anticlimactic. Like it's such a big set piece that like where do you go from there? I don't know. And so it because it hit such a schlocky high there of just craziness, then it feels kind of downhill. But also there was again, one of my other bads, and it's not 100% bad. I have to qualify all these. Is the Tarantino esque video game freeze screens? I'm
mhm,
putting them. There's something I like about them, but I'm going to put them a little more into the bad column because I think it's a tonal shift, and I think
mhm,
that the centerpiece and the Tarantino little bloody flashcards suggest a different kind of tone for this movie which
mhm,
it totally works and would have been fine, but then you have something like, the ending with kids getting stolen, and it's dark, and it's gritty, and it's kind of realistic. I mean, that's hard to say in a movie like this because it's so crazy that
Well, it's sort of
there's
like the movie Prisoners versus Inglorious Bastards, you
correct. And
know.
so there's just this sway between these two kinds of tones, and I think either tone would have been perfect for this movie, but when you give me both, it just doesn't they don't the parts do not make a better whole in this, whereas each part is good in and of itself.
Mhm.
And that's
Okay.
kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It was maybe a little too over the top, a little too cartoony. Like we were saying while it was happening, yeah, we were naming like Inglorious Bastards, um, Rob Zombie's Werewolf Women of the SS. Like it just had more of that
that
vibe to it.
grindhouse feel, yeah. Which
Whereas,
again, a
and
whole grindhouse.
they're probably that's exactly what they were going for, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
for this movie, something with a kid snatcher in it, uh, it would have maybe been more appropriate to have something that looked more like American History X or something, something more grounded
Yes. Yes.
and
100%.
grimdark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, there it is. That's exactly that's my thing. And so because of the anticlimactic nature and the two different tone shifts, it felt a little unevenish. Again, this is a very minor complaint in the movie that I really enjoyed. And my last bad is, again, we already talked about it. The mythology. I wanted a little more or a little less, but maybe it was the
Mhm.
right amount, and I'm craving more in the sequel because I think as long as it makes any kind of money, there'll definitely be a sequel.
Mhm.
Well, whether it makes money or not, that's to be decided. What bad do you have?
Well, so to continue on the Nazi Party massacre thing, uh, this scene was specifically made to make people angry, to get people talking, to make people cheer the movie. Like they knew what they were creating when they made this scene, um, and it's really interesting to go and sort of look at the comments and think about what this scene represents. The reason I first rolled my eyes at it is because watching it out of context, this woman says, Delphine, I think her name is. She's like the leader. She says something like, "And we're gonna make sure Christmas is a white Christian holiday. Hail!" And it seems very much like okay, they're trying to portray the caricature of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, um, Lauren Boebert, right? Right today, Nazi means something different than what it meant 10 years ago whenever Inglorious Bastards came out, right? Like it's basically anyone who I don't like, who I disagree with politically, is a Nazi. It's sort of a dog whistle for, Republicans. And so going into that, it's like, what is this movie going to be like? Is it going to be like this the whole way through? And I think part of the marketing is trying to maybe this is genius. Part of the marketing is trying to get people to think that. So you go and you like watch this clip and you read the comments, and it's like, oh, what, you don't like people killing Nazis? Then that must mean you're one, right? And then it's just like, well, I'm not going to go see this movie because it's woke. And like, oh, well, if you think this, like, it's just like this terrible back and forth. If you take the scene purely by itself, once you watch the movie, and so part of the reason I'm saying this is because I'm trying to tell people that were turned off by that scene, that like slasher movies that were maybe turned off by that, go check this out. Once you put it into context and you see like what these people are, yeah, I think some of that's probably still in there, but it makes a lot more sense. Right, this Delphine, she like literally is a bad person, right? We see we get these flashbacks to the terrible things that we're doing, and then it makes sense. Like, oh, this person isn't a Hollywood liberal's view of what a backwoods redneck is. This is a bad person doing bad things, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she's a bad hombre. And it's interesting because later in the movie they show her actually killing someone in flashback,
Right.
right? And but the
Exactly.
other interesting thing is that Charlie, the voice in his head, actually tells him to walk away and go kill her some other time.
Right, because it's too he's going to get killed, right? There's too many people there. Um,
Right.
so and this which is interesting, that right I'm just thinking like, oh, he also can act on his own accord. Um,
Hmm.
but so this like I went on this little tirade to get into the bad part of the ending. I want to return to the ending and how the ending was just too anticlimactic. And I really feel like this movie would have benefited from basically swapping those scenes in a way, and fitting the story around, okay, there is a person who is snatching up children. Why are they snatching up children? He goes and finds him, uh, uh, kills him, finds out that these kids are being trafficked. That scene uh, would have worked fine. He sort of tracks that down, and that gets him to the end of the movie where this big Nazi backwoods Nazi party is happening, and at the party, because again, like what we're just seeing is we're just seeing, I guess, a bunch of racist people uh, just having a party in the woods. Had they had kids there, where they're like, oh, by the way, we're not just assholes. We're also doing something really terrible that you can visibly see. Right? We are trafficking
Right.
children. Like we have child servants at this party. Right?
The interesting thing there is tying the two stories together, because in the beginning, Charlie hangs a lantern on it and says, "Man, this town's perfect for,
Right.
it's full of bad people that they want to kill." Um, but what's interesting is that then everyone they kill seems kind of unrelated to each other. Like
Right.
there's the different groups, and if you somehow even loosely tied them together, like one was mutually beneficial of the other, or one was paying protection for the other, and in turn we're doing this or that, I think that also would have led to a stronger third act. And the other interesting thing is, if you did swap them, then you could make it more realistic with the ending they have, where he actually is killed.
Yeah. Well, it just seems implausible that um, that this perfect town, on the surface, has all these terrible things going on. But it's not just like, hey, there's a murderer in town here, and there's maybe like a sexual
Right.
assaulter over
It's
here,
like it's
right? It's
over
that,
a hellmouth, right? Yeah.
yeah, and but yet they're not in
But
any
yet they're
way,
not connected.
right? The
Yeah.
the child snatcher storyline, it's like kind of this very, very understated subplot until the third act. Like it's just mentioned
Mhm.
that it's
Which
going
is
on.
which is a cool thing to do, to have like this like subtle like thing in the background that just gets bigger and bigger as the movie goes along. Like that's a cool idea in itself. It's just structurally
Well,
it's just slightly off.
and it's not just that there's a child snatcher going on. It's that there's like corrupt police there also,
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
getting paid off to let this happen, and they don't know about the backwoods Nazis.
right, and also like it's her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, like it's connected and disconnected in very odd ways, and I think that they could have just maybe structured that a lot better to give us our big action set piece, to put it in an appropriate spot in the movie, and just build towards that climax a little bit better. What it
Well,
sort of
and
reminded me of was, remember Mandy?
yes,
Like
yep,
how he, after his girlfriend is killed and he goes on his revenge streak and he fights like the weird Cenobite biker guys. That's like the highlight of the movie. And then it like
right,
slowly tapers down to where he gets to the leader of the cult, and he just like,
right,
he's
and
such a wimp that he like crushes his eyes or something like that, which I think is sort of the point. It's like once you strip away
right. The
power,
higher
they're
up you
just
get,
weak.
these, yeah, they're just that's similar to Running Man, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the guy on top, his power is getting strong people to fight for him.
Why does it work so much better in The Running Man, though?
Well, they have one central kind of bad guy. I mean, they have the minions chasing him, but they all issue from the main bad guy. If the Snatcher were the main bad guy and he
Well,
were dictating all these other people, it's just a different, it's a
well,
different structure.
he's visible. Killian is visible the entire time, right? He's a
Correct.
very large presence in
He's
the
making
movie.
power plays and he's a huge presence in the movie where the Snatcher's kind of behind the scenes. The other thing that I think is a weakness in this film, and I wonder if it's a missing scene or something, but like I was really confused that her nephew got taken. Like I don't remember that
They
bit
didn't
at all.
show him very well.
Yeah, but they
They-
but they show that like part of what makes Pammy like Billy is that he, is nice to the kid and like plays cards with him while she's in jail for beating up the punk hockey players.
yeah,
Um, there's so much in this movie we have not even got into that it's just interesting and fun and it makes you go like, huh, Pammy's a very interesting character. I'll get to her in the good, but like if you have this bond with this kid and it's your new girlfriend's nephew, I would think that that would be a major plot point when he gets taken and it gets
mhm,
overshadowed or the scene's missing and we get her father getting killed, which also works. I think they could have worked together, but like the impetus for finding the Snatcher was not to rescue the nephew, but was
right.
to get revenge for her father's death.
Yeah, yeah. That was a bit odd. Like I think that those two things could have been married together much
Yeah,
better.
and maybe when he said son and we were confused, maybe that kid was the nephew, and maybe he should have said grandson or maybe the kid's name, or I mean maybe that wasn't him. I need to watch it again, but I was so confused in that part.
Yeah, yeah. I wish he just would have said Timmy or whatever the kid's name is,
If that
and
was the
that
kid.
would have made that a little more clear,
Hmm.
a little more crystal clear.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm ready to move on the bad, but I still got to harp on one last thing.
Okay, I'm done.
Unless you
So
have
what do you
more
got?
bad. Okay,
No, that's it.
so I'm gonna return to the ending, uh, because I did not like the ending. I feel like this movie ended before it had a chance to really begin. In that we finally, like I said, it's stringing me along. It's revealing things to me. Like it had me on the hook for the whole movie.
Hmm.
And we find out basically by the end, like you said, Billy is actually kind of this superhero. He's not a psychopathic killer. He's kind of a superhero that can see evil and go take care of it. Um, and with this Venom type voice in his head. And then, biggest spoiler, he gets killed in a very anticlimactic way. But not only does he get killed, he passes the power on to Pam,
His girlfriend, yeah.
and it's very sweet in that he dies, but his voice, his spirit, whatever it is, gets to like live on in her head, and she presumably takes up the mantle of taking that advent calendar and
Hmm.
dealing out justice during the Christmas season.
You,
That's
yeah.
great, but like we said, we want more lore with the calendar. We
Hmm.
want more of Billy, and so one of two bad things happened. Either they just ended the story before it began, right? They don't want to make any sequels. They just wanted to make
Right,
this
right.
standalone movie, and I'm like, you finally created like a successful slasher anti-hero, someone who, dare I say, could be on the level of Ash from
Yes.
the Evil Dead, and you immediately kill him off. That's bad. Or the other possibility is that they are falling into the terrible modern trope of let's make it a chick, right? We are going to continue this story, but we're going to make the Silent Night, Deadly Night slasher Pam.
My favorite thing is that I called it a couple scenes before it happened. You're like, oh, you're right, Chris.
Yeah, like I knew it was coming. It would have been interesting if he passed it on to the nephew, and
Oh,
so
that would
it
have been
kind of like
interesting.
started over again as him. But the
So,
thing is, that my biggest problem with it is that I actually think it's a perfect ending. I think it's a
oh,
perfect ending to
it's a
something
great
that
ending.
never continues. Like,
Here's where it should have been. I'm okay with it. I see both of your points. I don't dislike it as much as you. I think it's the wrong ending for this movie. That ending should be in the Empire Strikes Back version. That should be the sequel.
right, right.
Because then we have this whole Bonnie and Clyde where they're both killing, right? The sequel, if he had lived, they're
Right.
together, they love each other. They're gonna go from town to town, Christmas, and then at the end of the second movie,
Mm.
it's this gut-wrenching thing because we like this couple. We liked this couple in this film. Like, it's touching when he says, "Hey there," and she hears the voice and kind of smiles and like, but it happens too soon. I'm totally
Hmm.
okay with killing him in movie 2 or maybe even 3, and then having the fourth or the third movie be her with flashbacks of him and his voice in her head and trying to, like, maybe they have a kid at that point in time. How does that work? There's so many options to go in different places. And like I said, I think that's a really powerful, strong ending.
Hmm.
But I think you're right. They did it too soon by doing it in this movie. And maybe they don't think they're ever getting a sequel. So they're like, you know what? Let's do it now because we're probably not going to get to make a sequel. But I don't know if that's why they did it. That's not a real good reason to do something for me. I would have loved to
Right.
see that in the sequel to this.
Well, all I know is I want to see more of Rohan Campbell in this role, doing this thing. Him and Charlie doing their thing. And I guess the only way we would get that now is in prequel, a prequel
Prequel,
series.
or if we have a sequel with her and his voice and then like flashbacks to this is how I did it, or we can't go to this town because of this happened.
Yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I want
I hear you.
I want the two main dudes. I want them doing their thing. We need a prequel now. But that's
We
the end
need
of my bad.
okay. Let's hop into good. I liked the cast. It's a small cast, but everyone had personality. Everyone had like a unique look. They're all pretty good actors. I mean, I really liked the cast. It was fun. It was funny. It had great callbacks, especially the music, because the music was the best part of the first film.
Mhm.
It had great kills, had some great lines with those kills. And then the frailty plot device I thought was such a slick thing to do in a slasher film. I'm surprised it hadn't been done before.
I've always wanted to see more of that movie, if that
Right, like,
makes
I
sense.
really
And so I'm
like that
glad it.
movie, but it's a drama thriller, but, like,
Yeah,
that story trope in a slasher with that little
it
twist of venom
really worked.
really worked. And when you say it, it kinda works on paper. You're like, I'm willing to check that out, but man, it works. If you don't think it works, it works, and if you think it kinda works, it works really well. This was a fun, well-made movie that had such a reference isn't the right word, but, like, loving look back to the original, and it took it in a different place and a different thing, but, like, you could tell the people who made this film wanted to do right by
Mhm.
the franchise, and that means a lot because there's a lot of modern, movies and TV where it's a remake or a reboot, and those people actually hate the fans. This
Right.
felt like this felt like it was made by a fan who wanted to do something for the fans, but also
Well,
take it in different directions. So, I
I
mean,
think the last one of these we reviewed, Silent Night,
mhm.
uh, the person who wrote the movie didn't even check out the other Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, and the
Right,
connections were just dialogue punch ups.
right. Yeah, I mean, it was barely there. And this one, I mean, they didn't have to say garbage day, but you know what? Spoiler alert. Garbage day.
So I do have to say that I am somewhat disappointed that it wasn't a straight remake of the original film, because I still think that that movie could be something. I don't know. Maybe it is something special for what it is. Just this idea of exploring trauma, PTSD, and like this person who snaps, and it just so happens to be all around the holidays, right? That
Mhm.
movie is just about this kid who's in a bad situation, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And you'll never beat the original grandpa in the
No,
first one. Christmas is
they
the
did a
most
pretty
terrifying day of the year,
they
right?
did a pretty good
Like,
job. They did not live up to the grandpa of the original, but they gave it their old, college try.
right. So I gotta say I'm disappointed. It's not a direct remake. But that being said, I think I love this movie. Like, I think this is a really good movie.
It
And
is such a good movie.
um, I mean, we've kind of talked about all of the really great things in it. Like you said, it's well acted, well cast. It
Beautifully shot.
For all of its flaws with the ending and how it kind of flutters out at the end. Like I said, it's
Still
also
liked it.
kind of a perfect ending, right? For someone
Yeah.
that it's an odd uh, right off into the sunset in a way
Mhm.
that's really appropriate. You know, you just want to see more of it prior.
Yeah, I'm
So
surprised they yeah. Like, during the credits, I'm surprised they didn't have, like, a training montage with his voice in her head,
that would have been amazing.
right?
So yeah, I gotta say, check out this movie. Right, it just came
Yeah,
out. It's in theaters. If you're on the fence, go check it out. If you're like me
yeah,
and you're apparently in the realm where all the haters are, don't listen to them. Like, if you like horror movies and you like slasher films,
man.
you like anti-heroes, you like Evil Dead, you like Ash Williams, you like irreverent humor, like go see this movie. Like, you're gonna have a really good
You
time.
know, the other good thing, and I've seen this in a couple movies, I liked the romance. It was one of those pure, nice, like, she's messed up, he's messed up, and when he tells her the secret, she's like, "Yeah, you sound really crazy," and he's like, "Yeah, I know that." It's like but she's like, "But you know what? I'm still here." Like, it felt like they were made for each other, and, like, the
And I
callback to,
think
like,
that
what
was the
she did in
point.
3rd grade, it was the point, but, like, it's so refreshing to see, um movies need conflict, right? Stories need conflict to move forward, and there's the story question of what's gonna happen, what's stopping them, but it doesn't need to be in every aspect of the characters' lives. So it's really kind of fun to, like, play against that of, like, no, this is they do have problems, and they're both kinda messed up, but it's kind of a pure little romance story tucked into the middle of
Mhm.
a slasher,
Yeah.
and I thought that
In
was
real
real
life, she has a ton of red flags that you would
correct.
absolutely stay away.
She's not
But
that character
perfect
is
for a
not perfect
serial
for
killer drifter.
right, right. It's the crazy that clicks with your crazy. And so,
and
and they're gonna
and I
be
guess I
together
will.
forever.
They are good. Well, until she dies and then gets passed on to the next
Right,
person.
right.
But I will also throw into the good as well. No nudity in this. I know that's a bad for some people, but I'm excited that modern filmmakers are listening to what statistically audiences want, and they did a really great job in this movie of having a romance without exploiting anyone. So
Yeah,
throw
it's
that in there.
yeah. There's just lots to like about this. Now, had this been a true remake of the original, we would have had to have a little bit.
if it were a true remake. So,
Yeah,
I guess
the
maybe I can
the
send you this
antler
movie.
homage did not quite land the way it should have, but that's
Right,
okay.
right.
If you
But
don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably better off. But go watch the first movie. Yeah, watch the first movie before you go see this. But go see this while it's in theaters because, man, I never go into movies blind. And you're like, "Do you want me to tell you some stuff about it?" I'm like, "No, I know it's a remake, and that's I'm down." And then I heard a little bit of trinklings of like, actually, it's pretty smart and pretty fun. And I'm like, oh, hopefully that's true. And I get there and I was pleasantly surprised.
awesome. Well, I love being pleasantly surprised when I see a movie. It's rare these days. So
Mm-hmm. And we both,
anyway,
yeah, it's rare for both of us to like almost be on the exact same level.
I think that's all we have time
That's
for
it.
today. Um, I like I said, I think we love this movie. We can't say enough good things about it. Like I said earlier, we reviewed all of the other Silent Night, Deadly Night movies prior to this. So go in here, go and listen to our opinions of the other movies and see how they compare, and then maybe you might see why we're so stoked on this movie. Uh,
Yeah.
Currently, we don't have another movie lined up yet for the show, but we are going to be having some big things going on in 2026. We just won our category at another film festival. We are going to hopefully get more guests on the show, so big things. Stay tuned for 2026.
Yep.
I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. Below me is Chris Anonymous. Thanks everybody for joining. We will see you in the next year. Schlock on, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.